If this was a video podcast, you would see me throughout the episode grinning. I'd always have a smile. I haven't prepared an intro for this because even if I had, I would fumble. So I'm already apologizing for that. This is a Totally Indian Football Show, and today I think more than exciting. Yeah, there you go. All the fumbles have started. I'm nervous, but super pumped to get you this gentleman who is all the way from UK. And if you had told me that one day I would sit with him in person in the studio in Bombay and do this episode, I would be like, okay, maybe one day that happens. And this is the day. We're recording it on a Thursday, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, but you listen to it on Wednesday. Nubaid Haroon is my guest, a Pakistan origin. I think my first ever. That's like even more exciting.
It's because they don't get to come to India.
I've never had a friend even from Pakistan, though we follow a few journalists as you follow the sport and stuff. But he's based and settled in UK. He's a broadcaster, he's a podcaster, you call it. He's everything, been there, done that. I think I can sit here for an hour just listing out things. He's met the who's who of European football. He's played with the legends. And if you go to his Instagram page, the first post that's pinned up there is where he's got to play with the legends, right? When I say legends, they're like Ronaldo, the Brazil Ronaldo, and Kaka, and all of that. And that same match, he also assisted. He was playing with Kaka, and he assisted a goal for him. I mean, like I said, I could go on and on. He has a beautiful wife, a lovely daughter. Was blessed with a lovely daughter earlier this year. Nubaid, I know, like I said, I could go on and on. Okay, and I already told you, I gave you a heads up, like this is going to be exciting and nervous. But thank you so much for finally responding to my DM and the right message that you responded to. So here you are.
Yeah,
it's all yours. Thank you and welcome to the Totally Indian Football Show.
Thank you for having me. First of all, this is like you behaving like I'm Salman Khan or someone.
Better than that.
yeah. In the footballing world, yeah, I guess. No, thank you seriously for having me on. I did look through our DMs before we started. I did feel very, very bad, but timing is everything.
Absolutely.
So it worked out well for both of us because I was around the corner. And had I known the podcast was flying, which by the way is, if you're new to it because you're following from something I've posted, then make sure you follow the podcast because it is doing very, very well. And I did listen to the last episode before I came on, so I'm well researched. But no, seriously, thank you for having me on. Thank you for the introduction. Like, you don't need to. It's not. It's the Kaka thing, though. I will say, I will admit.
Yeah.
Even I glow about that to everyone.
Yeah. Oh, of course, because that's if you had ever had a resume, I think leave the rest of the paper blank and just say this. I think you'll be like, okay, let's meet this guy.
Yeah, we had like a really big cuddle after as well. And cuddling Kaka, I love my wife and daughter, but they got competition.
Absolutely. So let's just begin with that story, right? Take me through that. I mean, yeah, I know I should come to you probably to asking about your intro and all that, but hey, let's just talk about the meat, right? Take me through that journey of having played with the legends, and man, you may dream about these things, but even at dreams you're like, no, I can't imagine stuff like this. So
the Kaka story is just really random. Actually, I got invited to the Champions League final, Liverpool against, should really remember this to be honest, Liverpool against who in Paris?
Liverpool won, so it's okay.
No, I think
it was Real Madrid.
Yeah, we lost that one. That's why I don't remember, because I've been to 3.
It's Madrid, yeah.
And no, I've been to 2. I missed the one that we won. I went to the 2 we lost. So we lost that final. And one of my friends who works for PlayStation, who was there at the time, he just said to me, look, we're playing with Kaka and Carlos tomorrow. I know, like, you want to play. At this point, I was like, acting cool. Like, yeah, listen, if you can get me a spot, cool. In my head, I was like, I am dying to play. And then Liverpool lost. He was devastated. He was sat next to me. We actually had like a sad cuddle, and in the sad cuddle he said, oh, by the way, you're playing tomorrow and you're on Kaka's team. I was like, hey, listen, I love Liverpool, but right now I don't care. So then the next morning we go to the stadium where they played the match the day before, and Kaka was there and Carlos was there, and I was like the roaming player, so I got to play on both their teams. Obviously Carlos plays left back and I play right back, so there were so many times where I was getting the ball and I was like, I'm just going to try and pass it to Carlos. And the first thing they tell you in football is don't pass it across your own 6-yard box. I admit, I must have done that about 10 times. And then second half, they switched me to Kaka's team. The craziest thing was the manager had me playing centre back. I'm a right back. Like, if obviously you're not watching this, but I may sound tall, but I'm like 5'9" and 3/4 on a good day, 5'10". And so I'm like, you can't play me at centre back. I've got to play right back. There's about a minute to go. The centre back came off. They shifted me inside, and Kaka just moved into midfield, like a deeper role. So I was like, there is no way anything's going to happen here. I begged the centre back for me to go play right back. I was like, just for 1 minute, it'll be fine. With the wholehearted intention of, can me and Kaka combine for something? Not a goal, just for something.
Yeah.
And then obviously the goal happens, and everything was so smooth for the goal. And so after the game, I was going, whoever filmed this, I need that tape now. I was going around the change room asking Spanish guys that like they didn't even speak English. Then I got the tape, and I put it in every WhatsApp group. I was sending it to, like, I'm friends with a few cricketers who obviously like football, and I was sending it to them going, hey bro, listen, me and Kaka have a combination thing going on. But yeah, Kaka was like lovely, like amazing human. At the end of the game, like, we had a little chat. He went around, had a conversation with everyone. Carlos, on the other hand, left within like 10 minutes of the game. But yeah, it was like genuinely like an actual pinch me moment. And I'm quite lucky, touch wood. Don't enough to have too many of those, but that was an actual pinch me moment.
I think everyone, I know a few people who've met Kaka in person. I think that's the common thing that they've said, that what a lovely human being he is. I mean, when you meet them, you're always mesmerized with the footballer Kaka, but the fact that you get to meet a step higher, which is a lovely human being, I think it's just,
Honestly, for the most part, like, I've not had too many bad interactions with ex-footballers or current footballers. Generally, they are good people.
Yeah.
It's just they get harassed by people
Yes.
so much. So, but Kaka in particular, you feel a warmth towards someone.
Yeah.
Kaka makes that relationship so seamless. He doesn't really have an aura of like, I'm Kaka and you're no one. I remember him asking me, was my wife pregnant at the time? I'm pretty sure my wife was pregnant at the time. And I mentioned it in passing, like in game. We were having a conversation in game. And at the end of the game, he was going, by the way, how's your wife? And I was like, geezer, like, you've just met so many guys on the pitch, all these people behind the scenes, like 40 people plus maybe. And you've remembered that my wife is pregnant in a moment I told you in a split. Like, I think I was running past him.
Yeah.
And we were joking about something, and someone said something about kids. And I was like, oh, my wife's pregnant as well. And he was like, I need to ask him about this. It doesn't happen with normal humans, and for it to happen with like one of the goats of the game, pretty special.
Yeah. Now let's come down to the other part where, again, a current story, again, momentary, like timing is perfect, as you mentioned, and football is all about timing, right? Being there, doing the right thing, the right shot. So I think even this episode coming out of the fact that Pakistan has finally, after years, made it to the next round of the qualifiers. How does that feel like for you? And what is it like to be in India when you know of that?
Well, I can't celebrate it. Let's be clear. The first thing actually that's really strange is everyone I've met on the ground, the moment they find out I'm Pakistani, they love it. And people are like, come over to my house for dinner. And I'll be honest, the first time I came to India, anyone who asked me that, I was like, no. I was like, you might be about to kidnap me. But this is the third time I've been here, and the warmth towards Pakistan is unbelievable. So anyone who tells you the opposite, I'd say you need to come and experience it yourself if you can get a visa. But in terms of Pakistan winning, I said this the other day, like, I love Liverpool Football Club. It's my club. But if I got a chance to go watch Liverpool against Manchester United in a Champions League final, I would rather sit at home and watch Pakistan win cricket or football. So for Pakistan to win a match of football, which sounds nuts because it's like, it's only a match of football, but you will know as like an India fan that the first one to get that one over the line, now you feel like, oh, actually, we might have a chance in these other... I'm looking at the Saudi Arabia game going, we might win this 3-0. Yeah. We only just scored our first goal in qualifying. So it's the hope in football. And for Haroon, who scored as well, what a guy, man. And a really, really good footballer. I think the game's going in the right direction. It will take a long time. Yeah. But people love Pakistan football. So, long may it continue.
No, I think also the fact that, it's coming so step by step, the fact that the ban was removed. The team is back. We got to watch them. Yes, not at their best because, again, travel issues and stuff like that when they came down to India to play the SAF. But overall, it's such good. Just as a football fan, you feel good. Oh, there you go. We can finally have that competition in football as well. Just that healthy kind of competition. I mean, on the pitch. But you have an Indian connection there as well. We have you guys. Pakistan has a former Indian national team coach, Stephen Constantine.
Big Steve, our boy. What a guy, man! Like, I would love to sit and have a conversation with him, and I'm sure it'll happen at some point. But he obviously managed India. Now he manages Pakistan, and they're two very different.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And I think he actually said in an interview, it doesn't feel that different to be here. It's quite similar to being in India, which is a really nice thing to say because not many of us get to experience both sides of that. But what was he like as an India coach? Did you guys like him? What was the feeling?
Yeah, people did like him because he also gave India the the longest winning streak. Now you can always argue who we played against, but I right now I don't remember the figure yet, but it was definitely around closer to 20 if I'm not wrong. Somewhere there that he had a winning streak of that and one after the other. He came the first time and then we switched him and then he came back again. So people did love him for sure. He was one of those loved ones, but you tend to see the modern football and things change and some of the coaches like to stick to their old school stuff. So I think when he came down to ISL, people were like, oh, he's back and Stephen Constantine is back in Indian football, and it was a new change to see him take a helm of a football club and on a national team. But that didn't go as per plan. East Bengal is never an easy team to coach. So the fans, you feel the heat, not just from your management, but from the fans as well. So I think, but overall for him personally, and I think to see Pakistan grow, given things are fine now, if he's given what he wants, and if they can stick around with him for a little bit more time, I'm sure the team will do well.
It's just, I think things happen in stages, and because we all watch Premier League football or at the top levels, we have like an obsession over playing a certain style of football, etc., etc. But things just develop at different times. I think he is like at this moment the right manager for Pakistan, and then as things develop, like right now India, I was actually watching a game from my gym's balcony, and there was a game of, I don't know who was playing, just two teams, and they were playing out from the back. It was going to the left back, into the centre back, midfielder was dropping in to pick the ball up, and I was like, Pep Guardiola, he's got a big effect. When I came to India like 5 years ago, the first time, the ball was just getting hoofed up to, and it's funny because like generally South Asians were not tall.
Yeah.
The guy up front was like 5'7", the defender was like 5'8". It's like, this is hilarious because it's not going to work. So it's refreshing also to see the Indian game has progressed on like the grassroots level. I can't say the game was a great amount of joy, but I imagine in 10 years time when I come, it will change and it will develop. So
yeah, absolutely. Now let's come back to you, because this episode when you asked me, okay, let's talk what's on the agenda, I'm like, it's all about you. So give us a story from your journey. In fact, were you born and raised completely in UK? And how did the whole, I think people in UK are also anyway tend to football being sport, but they also love the other sports. It's not just about football. So how do you land up working as a broadcaster? Because we don't have many South Asian representation, in a UK in front of the camera, right? So how did all of that go about?
In terms of like football, I always liked it from a young age because my uncle used to play semi-pro. He trialed for like Birmingham City when he was younger. So like football was always the thing. But I always say to people, I picked up a cricket bat when I was 12 for the first time. And I swear on my life, I was better at cricket than I've ever been at football. And it was just like in the DNA. But then at that point, I decided like I prefer playing football because cricket I found like somewhat fun, but it wasn't very available. Then I went to uni. I actually had trials at a college to go and play in America, football-wise. At that time, America was probably where India is now in their journey in football. And then I went to uni, and I used to always say from like a really young age, I just want to be famous. And like, it's a long-standing thing in my house that whenever I'm on TV, someone's like, oh, he's famous now. And I'm like, no. Like when I used to say as a kid, I want to be famous, I was like, I want to be in movies. I want to be a singer. Like I wanted that kind of fame. I very quickly realized I can't act or sing. And so I was like, no. And then I guess there came a point where YouTube was getting big. Remember like when KSI in his early days was like a screaming teenager in his room making FIFA videos. And at that point, I was like, I don't really want to do like a marketing job. I was working in marketing. My first job was actually at Adidas in Germany. Okay. And I met Steven Gerrard on my third day. So I felt like I peaked so young.
Yeah.
And then it was like we had like a shoot with Podolski. Then like the Germany players like Lahm, Thomas Muller, Schweinsteiger were playing football around my desk. So all this was happening straight out of uni. And I was like, what? Like, how does this ever get better? Like, how am I ever going to get a job that's going to get better than this? And then I came home and just said to my mum, I'm moving to London. And she was like, why? I was like, I'm making YouTube videos. And she was like, at that time, like you said, you want to make YouTube videos. YouTube didn't even exist to people. Yeah. And in a South Asian household, like my mum was like, you've been to uni your whole life, and you studied your whole life.
Productive. What are you
going to do? And now you want to make videos,
yeah.
like from your bedroom. I was like, yes, mum. And she was like, and you have no money, and you move to the most expensive city in England. I was like, yes, mum. And then she was chill, to be fair. And then she asked my dad. Told my dad. And he was like, listen, he can go for a while, but if he doesn't achieve anything, he needs to get a proper job. And then I would never tell him that I was achieving nothing. And then I was basically just roaming around London trying to figure out what I wanted to do and who I was, I guess, as a person. And then the YouTube was sort of picking up, but sort of not. Like, you know how the grind is. Like, you're making content every single week. Sometimes the edit doesn't come out good. You have to reshoot the thing. It got to a point where I think I shot like 1,000 videos, only like maybe 100 went live, but I was like trying to just hone my craft. And then, funnily enough, actually, I came to India and I was like, I'm going to work in the IPL because I had an interest in broadcasting. Someone said to me, you've got like a good voice, which I still don't agree with. And so I was like, can I find a way around this? And then in India, I get a call from someone saying, we put you forward for a job for a big brand and we think you need to come and do a screen test. I'd been in India like 5 weeks and I was like, I've never had a gig like this. So I don't even know what it is. And I actually, at that point, didn't know what I was going to do next. I was just making YouTube videos and going, basically, inshallah, something happens. And hopefully my dad doesn't call me home anytime soon. And then I basically decided, look, that's something my gut said, go home. So I went home, did this screen test, had no idea who it's for. And mum calls me after and I'm never someone who goes like, I'm going to get an A star or like I was a failed student. I will say that. Focus on your studies, kids. But I was a failed student. And then I just said to my mum, look, like, I've got this job, you know. And she was like, what is this job? I was like, I don't know. But I was like, I've got it. And she was like, you're mad. Like, you've never presented anything ever. Like, you've just done a YouTube. Like, for her, she was like, you sit in your room, I've watched your videos. We get called in for a second interview the next day and find out it's the Premier League. So this is FPL FYI. Mm-hmm. And we do the second audition, me and James Allcott. We'd never met and we just got put next to each other. And like, we were like on flames. Like, we just got along immediately. Then we get told we've got the show. And now all of a sudden I've gone from like making YouTube videos, trying to navigate my way to places to like, now I present for the Premier League on their biggest FPL show. And then that FPL show did really well. Yeah. It's massively loved in India, actually. I've seen so many people go, oh, when's the show coming back? I'm like, it's been like 5 years. It's like, you know, they make like Doom 1 and they're like, when is Doom 2 coming out? And then, then that happened. And then from that point, COVID hit, I think. We did the show from home, but then by that point I felt like I was in a good place to try and keep pushing on, and now, touch wood, we are pushing on.
Nice. And now take us through, like you mentioned, like you've met, I mean, when somebody follows you, they know who you meet and who you sit down with every day or every other show that you have with. Take us to the players that you've met and you've probably had a longer conversation, like you've met Gary Lineker and all of these guys, and when you were probably getting your hold again, becoming a presenter, a broadcaster, did you kind of also follow up on these guys? Because for today, when somebody looks at a Gary Lineker and they don't know if he has played or not, they'd be like, oh, this man was born to be a broadcaster, right? He was born to be speaking on the mic in front of the camera, but then you're like, oh, he was also a legendary player.
Yeah.
So when you have these iconic players who kind of very smoothly transition into what they are now as pundits or speakers, how was your journey in preparing that? Like you said, from YouTube videos, suddenly you were picked and saying, okay, now you're hosting an FPL show. But how was the transition and how do you prepare yourself?
I've always been a believer of like, there's no good time, there's just time. You decide if it's good or bad, or if it's right or wrong. And so when like the Premier League pick you up and throw you into something, for me, I was like, either I sink and probably go, oh, I wish I was ready for this, or I swim and find solutions. And so when I get on this set, in my mind, I'm going, whatever this is for, it's the first time I've been on set. These people don't know me. I don't know them. But I do know that I've made 1,000 YouTube videos, and I do know that I've stayed up till 5, 6 in the morning trying to put an edit together when I don't edit, and I've color corrected something and it hasn't gone out and it's got 12 views. I've felt the pain. That's part of the journey, right? Like, it hurts so much that like now I've got to make the hurt worth it. And that is just how I sort of approached it in the end. I think like at the moment, people have a feeling of like, I've been doing this for a year. When am I going to get my big break? Unfortunately, like with almost everything, unless you know someone, unless you're an ex-pro, prepare yourself for the pain. But you'll also notice that when you get the, there's a saying in Hindi that I can't remember. Is it Pal ka meetha or something like that? I don't know what that saying is.
Sabar ka fal meetha hota hai. I don't know what happened to my Hindi, but yeah.
I promise you, still the same host. She hasn't been kidnapped. My mum would say that to me quite a lot. My mum always says to me, keep sabar, which is something that I swear by. And so when you get put in these situations, then it's like, you worked for this, right? So if you worked all this way to get to this point and then you fall, then that's completely on you. Like you can't want it so badly, and then when the moment comes, not be ready to take it. Right. And the moment can come at any given time, and you just have to essentially be prepared for it. Obviously, people like Gary Lineker. I watched a video earlier actually of him presenting something in 1989 or 1990. Now you look at Gary Lineker and he's the GOAT. He is the GOAT of presenting. But when I watched that video, I was like, this is shit. But he's a very charming guy. He's learnt the charm as he's gone along. And so people like that, like, I think people say he was born with it. He definitely wasn't born with it. You train for it. And in the same way, like if you're sat at home and you're making YouTube videos, or even if you're making TikToks, like you're training something in your brain to be able to handle cameras and to be able to handle pressure and to be able to handle, can I get a certain amount of views? And so in reality, like you will be ready when the time comes. And that was just my feeling. And I'm obviously saying that now in hindsight, and it's probably a lot easier to say in hindsight. And if someone asked me at the time, I was probably like, I am not ready. But like when someone eventually comes along and goes, this is the opportunity you've been dying for, do you want to take it or not? In any walk of life, you are going to take it, and you have to find a way to take it. So yeah, speaking of Gary Lineker though, absolute legend, like one of my favorite people on earth. We followed each other for years. I shot something at his house. Then he came on No Ratings recently, and he was amazing. And he's just a top guy, man. There's no words for him. There's certain people that I wouldn't say I look up to him, because you touched on this earlier, actually. There isn't very many South Asian presenters or broadcasters, and there is a big problem that we don't have them. And essentially at the moment, we don't tick a box, if you like, in the UK or even in Europe. So there isn't really someone that you go, oh, I want to be like that doesn't really exist. And so people like yourself are doing it for people in India. People like myself have to wear that badge of like responsibility. And Gary's doing it for people that look up to him. But yeah, Gary's the GOAT, man.
You've spoken to several players. Like you mentioned that, some time back while we were talking about the Pakistan stint, you also said how Haroon is a good friend of yours. Take us to somebody who's been a fan of the sport, and then suddenly when you meet these guys, and suddenly now you're also probably have the numbers on your phone. What is it like working with these guys? Yes, we see the professional on the pitch, but when you go behind the scenes, as you mentioned, I think all the players have a human side to it, and I think that's when you meet them, sit down with them, and they are okay and ready to do that with you as well. But if you had to, like, the people that you met, I don't want to ask you to rate or anything, but what is your moment of saying, even if you had a 2-minute interaction with them, how would you see and how would you want to describe few of the players that you've met?
See, I think they're all like very similar. On camera, they are who they want you to think they are. Probably very similar to Bollywood actors here. And the moment the camera goes off, if you can break that first wall, which normally is like, I don't go to them and say, I want you to sign my shirt, or like, I want a picture. And I think for them, that's like, cool, this guy's like just another guy and we work together. Then you get to see more of the person. Genie Wijnaldum is a great example. We did a shoot at Liverpool on camera. I remember thinking, bloody hell, he's uptight. I'm not going to have a lot of fun with him on camera. Then we spoke about his skincare routine like 2 minutes after. And I was spooked because he just uses Vaseline. You have Vaseline here?
Yeah.
Yeah. sorry to listeners, I don't mean that in like oh my, you got Vaseline. I just mean like, is that a brand that you have here?
Yes.
So he was like, I just put that on before I go to bed and in the morning. I was like, if I do that, my skin just looks like oil. And then we're having a conversation about that. So it's kind of like breaking through the first part is the difficult part, which I think a lot of people struggle with, because these guys are like people you love and adore and you watch every single day. But I was at the Pakistan-India game the other day and I was sat with Owen Morgan talking about kids for like 2 hours, because I have a kid and he's got one, and I think he's got one on the way. So yeah, I guess I just don't really like fanboy over them, mainly because in my eyes, like, I want to be the best in my space. They want to be the best in their space. So we share something very much so in common, and we're on a shoot together. So like, I earned the right to be next to you, and like, you didn't earn the right to be next to me, but you earned the right to be there. And so let's just get along. Like, it's the easiest way to do it. There are players, and I won't mention any names, that do make your life particularly difficult, and they are a pain in the arse. But generally speaking, they're very, very cool to work with. They're very chilled, and some very cool things happen like off camera, which they never, like, you'll never see on camera because they also don't want it to be there. But we did something with Alexis McAllister the other day, and he is a lovely human. I learned Spanish for the interview because Darwin Nunez was there. So it was Darwin, me, Alexis McAllister, Ryan Gravenberch, and Saboshly. And Darwin doesn't speak good English, so I decided to learn a bit of Spanish. And McAllister was sat next to me the whole way through translating my Spanish, because he was like, you are making a good effort of this, but it's really bad. And sometimes people wouldn't do that. And so shout out McAllister.
Yeah. And any funny incidents? I'm sure a lot of them, but anything that you particularly remember that you can share with any of them?
Mo Salah was like amazing to work with. So the first time I met him, I gave him like the Player of the Month trophy when he was like killing it.
Yeah.
And during that shoot, Simon Mignolet was there at the time at Liverpool, and I was like fairly new to the industry, and the guy I was with, he was like, any player you see, get content because we need that content. I was like, okay, fine. The first player I see is Simon Mignolet, and I was like, oh, Simon, can I get a quick thing? And he was like, yeah, what do you need? So I got the camera out and I was like, how was the game yesterday? They lost 2-1, and he had a really bad mistake in the game, and he was like, yes, good man, good. Anything else? And I was like, that was a strange response. I was like, wait, did we lose the other day? And I was like, oh, we did. And then I realised like he dropped the ball in his net. So about 10 minutes later, the Liverpool PR lady comes out. She's like, you know the thing you just shot with Simon? I was like, yeah. She was like, don't put that out. I was like, yeah, my bad. But he was nice. And then on the same thing, we met Firmino. At that time, he didn't speak great English. And so he was just saying like words that didn't make sense. So like, let's say he was going like, cup of tea, coffee, I like steak. And like we kept that in the clip, and it was a really funny clip. And then we met Salah again on a separate shoot that we did with a brand. And he was like, he rocked up on this shoot, and he basically, he's very, if you didn't know him, you'd think he's very standoffish. But like when you get to speak to him, he's actually the warmest guy in the world. Like the sort of guy that like, when they were doing the coffee round, they naturally will go to the players first. Yeah. Like it's just a thing that they do. And so they come over, and he's one of the like rare players who'll get his coffee and say like, oh, who wanted a mocha? And he'll pass it to the person who ordered a mocha. To contextualize that for people who are maybe listening in India, that's like Shah Rukh Khan on set offering tea to people. like Salah, there's no one bigger than Salah in my opinion. Along obviously there's Messi and Cristiano, but I don't have any interactions with them. In fact, no, I have an interaction with Cristiano. I was in Saudi for a charity game, and I was in the tunnel shooting something, and it was a very, very small interaction, but he was jogging out of the tunnel, and he stopped by the camera thinking like I wanted a selfie, so he paused, and it was a video the whole way, and I was like, oh, that's a video, and he went, shit, I just carried on running. But yeah, Mo was like amazing. Something else just sprung to my mind then, but I've completely lost it in the middle of talking about Cristiano. It will come to me. I'll tell you as it comes to me. But loads of these interactions that happen, they're so quick on camera. Stuff is just random and sporadic is always the best stuff. Unplanned. But yeah, the Liverpool guys are wonderful to work with. Genuinely, I'm not saying it because my team probably am, to be honest. I haven't actually worked with many City players. I've worked with a few United players. But generally, there's always fun random stuff happening.
Yeah. How did you fall in love with Liverpool? What's that story like?
like most things in my life, I always like the bad guy. So like my family used to always support like everyone supports Manchester United, and Liverpool were shit when I was a kid. I'm 31 for context, and so when I was a kid, Liverpool were losing everything, and so United, like Liverpool would lose 4-1 to United, I would cry in the living room and my family would laugh at me. And so I was like, I have to live and die by this club now. And so now I'm winning finally.
Yeah.
But also when I was a kid, I used to support India. I know, like, if you're Pakistani and you listen to this, I'm so sorry. But it's because everyone supported Pakistan in my house. So I was like, you know what? Forget India, mom. I'm a Sachin Tendulkar guy, but that was false. That was actually fake. I want to clarify that was fake. But I used to always like Kane over the Undertaker in WWE, and so that's just kind of lived with me ever since. So now I've always liked the person or the thing that people don't like as much as the other thing. So you blame Liverpool for that.
Yeah. Well, to put more context, my guest is a Liverpool fan. Here I am a United fan. So I don't know how much I can say about it now.
Yeah, you can't say shit to me anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned, now you brought up WWE. That's one thing I wanted to ask you about. You also happened to meet Triple H, and I think a WWE event, was a SmackDown event or something?
It was Money in the Bank.
Money in the
UK.
Bank, yeah. And it was huge, right? Whatever it was, I think as a kid, I always thought everything was real. And Triple H, man, I always tried doing his entry where you put, he kind of sips the water and he like poofs it up into the air. We've all done that, right? So what was that like? And how did that come about? Like out of no, I don't know.
No, literally that was out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad it came across that way because it actually was. Like the night before, I saw a friend of mine's tweet and I went, you know what, I have this thing similar to how this has happened. I always shoot my shot. So like if I want to do something, I'll just tweet it. And then more often than not, I tweet it and then I go, I could probably make this happen, And then I'll reach out to someone, I might email someone, then I'll hustle a little bit here and there. And the next thing you know, the thing happens and people are like, whoa, you manifested it. Manifestation exists, but you got to hustle. So one of my friends tweeted saying, I want to go to Money in the Bank. And I was like, oh, it's in the UK. Like, I would like to go. But being the stingy Asian that I am, I was like, I'm not paying. So let's find out how we get there for free. And then someone messaged me the PR company's details saying, reach out to these guys. They'll sort you out with tickets. I messaged them saying, I need some tickets because I want to come. They were like, oh, we're doing a press junket with a few wrestlers actually. Do you want to come do that as well? I was like, yeah, why the fuck not? So we go to this press junket and obviously, like, I've been a WWE fan my whole life, and it's not The Undertaker on this press junket. It was Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and a few of the new guys. But it was the coolest shit I've ever done. Because, like, it was, I don't know, there was just a different sort of feeling. I had, like, a bit of a fire in my belly. I was, like, just having a load of fun on set. And then we get invited to the press conference after, and Triple H is there. Now, obviously, Triple H was the guy, man. And he's the baddie of the baddies. Yeah. So I was like, if that's out of context, people are going, why does he think Triple H is a baddie? I don't mean like that. I mean, like, he's a bad guy. And so he, like, rocks up, and now he's not Triple H of old, right? Like, now he owns WWE. And they were like, oh, we really want you to ask him a question, preferably about football, not WWE. So I'm going, right, fine. I stand up and in my head I was like, the only thing I can think of it, I think I asked about Declan Rice possibly. And he obviously doesn't watch West Ham like he claims to. And he's like, you guys are too obsessed with the game. So I was like, yeah. And he was like, players are always moving. And I was like, if Declan Rice, and you're a West Ham fan, left your club to join Arsenal, I'm pretty sure you'd have some sentiment towards it. But yeah, it was a wild moment. Like, actually was wild. And John Cena came out that night. And like, I'm a very chilled person. John Cena came out, I was whistling. I was going crazy. It was a unbelievable moment. They have an event in India, no? Yeah,
I think he was here. I think it was a month ago or something. He was here. I think somewhere in Hyderabad, if I'm not wrong. Somewhere down south.
Put a tweet out.
Yeah, absolutely. So now coming to the fact that you've dabbled also through many platforms. Starting from YouTube and TikToks and then Twitch, if I'm not wrong. You had channels there. See, I do follow you.
Yeah, I'm aware.
So now when you see, there's this whole thing of the world of influencers, right? That's the word that people want to use. I'm not sure how much do I like that term.
Same.
But everyone out there, we also see that influx in the Indian Super League as well. Definitely not a bad thing there, because you always want the league or want the sport to reach out to many audiences and different kinds of audiences. So do you see yourself somewhere kind of battling a fight between that? Because somewhere it kind of gets lost. I mean, Speed being one of those guys, like he's one of the influencers, right?
Yeah.
So you always look at him and you're like, he's there. So how does, no disrespect to Speed, of course not. I'm just saying, like all the other guys who've done that, and every other kid has a TikTok, or I mean, TikTok is banned in India now, but everyone wanting to put out videos, doing content, getting very familiar with camera. Like, I'm still not very okay with being in front of the camera. The fact that I do this, it's like no one's watching it. They're just listening to it, right? So how have you, like, what have you gathered, whether it's in terms of experience or learnings from each of the platform that you've dabbled with, and where do you see, where are we heading now?
I think when you work in like social media, we become very obsessed with views. And so we're always going to chase the platform that gives you more views. And TikTok naturally gives you more views, is more organic. You can become trendy very quickly. YouTube is now taking a sort of backseat because the algorithm has changed and it's more difficult to grow. Twitch, I don't know how popular it is here, but it's very popular in Europe.
Yeah.
All these platforms just do the same thing. They just try and give you instant gratification. As I've got older, I've become less obsessed with these platforms. I did the thing with Speed, which got a lot of views, but actually I was at a point where I was like, this is like now like invading my private space a bit too much, which sounds silly. Like, it's like my job is to be out there on the internet, and unfortunately, because I haven't played the game, part of the reason I get into these spaces is because I have some element of an audience. If it was up to me, I say this all the time, I'd have someone manage my social media and I wouldn't look at it ever again, because I just don't enjoy being on social media. I find it very, very draining, but equally, I'm still out there making TikToks every other day when I can in the UK, or I'm making Instagram reels, but it's sort of part of the job. If you're not someone who's played the game, or if you don't know someone somewhere, you need something else. And the best thing you can do is have lots of different arrows in your armory. And so for me, I was like, if I'm a broadcaster, content creator, someone who has an audience, I have a lot to offer. This trip to India is one of those where I went to BBC and said, I want to go do some stuff. You don't need to send anyone. I can present, I can script, I can host, I can edit, and I can put it out for you, and I'll tell you the captions, and I'll tell you the hashtags. You make yourself a little more difficult to reject or turn down, because if they want to send an ex-cricketer, he's going to come and he's going to sit in the Trident Hotel the whole time and hope that someone sorts him out. So I guess like how I've navigated between the space is just learn each platform as you go. But the next place is probably like the metaverse, so I have an interest in that as well. I do find it wild and creepy and insane, but either you grow with the trends or you get left behind. So unfortunately, that was similar with TikTok. I didn't start making TikToks until like a year after, and I have a massive regret over that, because I was like, if I made them a year earlier, I would have probably done a lot better. But at the same time, I kind of go, yeah, but then TikTok will die at some point. The next one will come along, then the next one and the next one. It's extremely draining. Like, you all know, like, you're on social media all the time. It is super draining. It's not that fun. The content is non-stop. And do you feel a pressure to post content because you do this?
No, of course, because like I said, we also have a YouTube channel, which has been quite dead for some time now. I think the last video we put probably months back, there hasn't been consistency. But I think one thing that, gives us this with ease is that we have a team that, is taking care of the production. So shout out to Idea Bruce there. So they take care of the other technicalities, but I only have to focus on getting the guest into the content, right? But when you have a channel, you have, like you said, start from the scratch. You script it, then you need a proper space, at least presentable. You have to be presentable when you put out a video. Then the edits, and you're managing all of this with a day job that you have. So it definitely becomes taxing. And then you also see some things that just come out yesterday. They have like already subscribers and hit the numbers. And then you don't feel bad about that. It's just that, okay, you have to be consistent. And to be that, it's definitely a big pressure to churn out content every time.
That's kind of the trick of social media though. Like, in any platform to grow, you have to post every single day. That's the trick. And if you don't have the energy, or if you have a day job, like, part of the reason I moved to London, going back to what I said at the start, was I didn't want to work and try and do content at the same time. So I gave myself like 3 or 4 years and said, if we get to a point where I'm not making money and I'm just making content and the content isn't paying, then I've got to call it a day. But at that time, I was trying everything. I was doing like reaction videos. I was doing Fortnite videos. I remember titling a video so bad, a Fortnite video. At the time, it was acceptable. Now I'd get cancelled. It was like, Muslim guy makes 99 kills on Fortnite. I was like, what am I doing? I saw that the other day and I was like, I would genuinely get cancelled. The video is now long gone, obviously. And I didn't even get 99 kills in that video. I think I got 1. But I was like, that is a stupid title. But I was young, and I guess I that speaks to what a lot of people are probably trying to do now, like by cutting corners and things like that. But I would not advise titling videos like that.
Yeah, I don't think you'll ever want to do that ever again. Right? That's
No.
a phase. You grow up, you learn, right?
Yeah.
I think now let's talk about the fact that you were in Mumbai and you were in India, in Ahmedabad. You came down, you mentioned that. What was that like? I know we're talking about cricket, we're talking about WWE. I think it's the first time it's ever happened on the show. But like I said, it's your story. So what was India-Pakistan cricket game in Ahmedabad like? Looked like a one-sided affair. But at the end of it, have you watched India-Pakistan cricket game before? Was this your first one?
I've watched it once before in England. The 2019. Honestly, because of COVID, I don't remember anything. But I went there and took my dad, and it was on his bucket list. Although he, obviously, South Asian dad claims he doesn't have a bucket list, but he definitely does. And he refused to smile in any picture. And I was like, Dad, you love it here.
Yeah.
So I went to that one. Then this one was a complete polar opposite. Obviously, like I won't like criticize the BCCI or the ICC, but it was like loads of India fans, and I would have loved to see more Pakistan fans. I think it would have made a better culture, a better game. The game was terrible from like a Pakistan perspective. I think generally, when it comes to sport, I just want to see good content, a good contest, whether it's football or cricket, and it just wasn't. But the experience of being in Ahmedabad, I watched most of the game from the media area because it was, bro, it's so hot in Ahmedabad. I stepped outside, I was like, I will die today. I was like, it's 39 degrees of pure dry heat. And then I just sat in the media area for most of it. But it was, Ahmedabad actually, to be fair, surprised me a lot. I heard a lot of things before I went, and people were very nice. I did like a Navratri Garba thing as well. Although I didn't have a kurta, so they didn't let me dance. I was so disappointed. But yeah, like the cricket on the day was decent, not wonderful. But hopefully Pakistan and India meet again at some point. And we need these countries to play against each other because the players actually really get along. Kohli and Baba are walking around for like 20 minutes after having a conversation. So, but Ahmedabad was a nice spot.
And what's ahead? How long are you here? I mean, by the time this episode comes out, it's on a Wednesday. So
I'll be flying back actually on the same day. I go to India, New Zealand in Dharamshala, which I'm super looking forward to because everyone's saying like Dharamshala is like the best
Beautiful.
place. Yeah. Have you been?
No.
Everyone's like, no one's been, but everyone's like, it's beautiful. Our producer's been and he's given thumbs up, so happy days. Yeah, so I'm super excited to go. Initially, we weren't meant to be going, and then I've a couple of my friends here, I convinced them to go with me. So we're getting a flight, then a road trip, which will be amazing. I used to watch a lot of Bollywood films, naturally. I don't watch that many anymore. But there's a film where like a group of friends go on a road trip. What's that film called? Really famous film.
Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara?
Yeah. So I've always wanted to do a road trip after watching that. And like guys in the UK won't do a road trip like that. Like there's nowhere to go. And also, like there is, but like we're not going to do a road trip and sing songs in the car. Like we probably weren't on this one either. But in my mind, I'm like, I'm in India with Indian guys, probably listening to Asian music.
You would do that. I think that's just a kick that gives you when you're on the road trip, right? You play, blast the music and you sing along.
So we're road tripping there, and then I come back, and then I'll be flying home when this goes out.
Yeah, great, good stuff. Don't want to get too much into the private life of yours, but how is your wife like? And now that you are also stepped into fatherhood, what's that been like? Has that changed you as a person? One second, how have you kind of now picked and picking content and to do work? Because I remember you put up a story saying how disheartening it is to leave them. It's the first time I think you were away from both. So what's that been like? And does she like football? What's the scene there?
So my wife is my goat. She's a journalist. She's like the best human in the world. Because if she wanted to, she could have said no to this trip, and I would have been completely fine with that because she's well within her rights to. But she sees the longer picture. She sees what we're trying to achieve. She sees what we're trying to do, not only for ourselves but also for other people in the space. And like for someone to understand that when she's having to look after our daughter every single day, and she's on her own and I'm not there. It's a very unique thing. So she's my goat. My daughter is the best human in the world, and it's changed me completely. Like I've never been like overly emotional. Like think back to like old school Asian dads. Like that was probably more of my personality. And now I'm an emotional wreck like all the time. And that's what happens when you have a daughter. But she's so funny. She does some really funny stuff. I wish I could like virtually show people listening pictures. But yeah, she eats everything. She's the bougiest child in the world. She went on a spa day the other day. She's 7 months old. That morning she ate bruschetta, and for evening she had salted garlic mushrooms.
Wow.
So she's living a particular style of life. So my wallet's gonna be empty by the time she's 10 years old. But yeah, like being a family, like I've always been a family man. Like I'm very close with my family. But yeah, like when you have a daughter, it changes. Because when I came to this trip to India, it was the toughest goodbye in the world. Like my wife was emotional, I was emotional. And for those listening who maybe don't have children, they're very clever, and she could like read between the lines of like, my parents are really upset about something. So she was very sad, even though she had a good morning, a good sleep, a good breakfast, everything like that. So yeah, it was really tough. And if it was up to me, I probably wouldn't have come, but it's part of the job, and I have to do these things. And as I say, like we're working towards something. I go to Pakistan in February for 3 weeks for the PSL, and I was looking forward to it before I came here. Now I'm not looking forward to it as much. But then we go to Tokyo with Formula E, and they'll be going with me, so they'll get a trip there. So there's like perks to the job as it goes along. But yeah, it's like, honestly, it's life changing, so life changing to have a child. I think the end part of that question was...
I think you've answered it partly. Yeah. But finally I would ask, like, how do you see yourself? What is next for Nubaid? And also, what's with Rambo, by the way? That's your Instagram handle, right?
Rambo was like... So no one could pronounce my name. Okay. So like, which is why when I said at the start, like your pronunciation is... Yeah. But some people were like, Asians can't pronounce it in the UK.
Yeah. That's funny because none of the Indians can get my name right, Siju, for some reason. And I've always got... all the foreigners, because I've met these coaches and they're Siju, they get the name right. And most of the Indians, I kind of introduce them. I would spell it out for her because it's like...
Your name's 2 syllables.
Yeah, exactly. Siju. And they would go, Su, Si. I'm like, it's S-I-J-U. Can you just say, can you not hear? Am I not clear? But anyway.
Yeah, I can't believe people can't pronounce Siju. People just struggle to pronounce the name all the time. Then a certain situation happened when I was playing football, and the name Rambo was born. And then it sort of became an alias that I was like, kind of, not to go too deep, but I was kind of like hiding behind, because I was like having not an identity crisis, but I was like, I like being South Asian, but like people maybe don't want me to be South Asian. And so being Rambo was like cool, and people would remember me, and I was the cool guy. And now because I have a verification tick, I can't change it to Nubaid. So I'm just going to leave it as Rambo until they allow you to change your handles. Yeah. But a lot of my friends still call me Rambo, and I'm now one with the name, whereas previously I wasn't one with the name. I was like, Rambo's one guy, Nubaid's another guy. Now like I'm happy to be Nubaid, I'm happy to be Rambo. And and in terms of what's next, I don't know, man. I think about this quite a lot. Like I want to work globally, obviously. I did want to work in India, and I don't know if that's going to happen at some point or might not. The PSL, like I've wanted to do for ages, and so I'm like really happy to be able to do that. I do want to work in the States on possibly the MLC, also Formula One, but I'm at that sort of point where I've just got to go through the days of doing the shows repeatedly, because the next show along might be the big break, the big break. Yeah. So in terms of what that looks like, I always said I wanted to have a chat show. I still want to have a chat show. I'd love to have a chat show at some point where it's like me and like 2 guests, and we do some features outside the studio, but we also do stuff inside the studio. I do think that era of show is kind of dying a little bit, so maybe that'll evolve into something different. But yeah, there's so many things I want to do. There's also so many things in the way to try and make those things happen. I think people used to say to me like, surely you want to do match of the day. But I was like, Gary is the GOAT, man. If it was up to me, Gary would live till 200, because I love watching him do match of the day. And also nobody can do that job. And so like if Gary decided he didn't want to do it anymore, I don't even think I'd be able to apply, because like it's a job that people will kill you in, because he, like, when you think of match of the day, you think of Gary Lineker, and the two things align together. So to try and replace someone like that is it's like impossible. So I guess there's lots of things to come. There's things that are probably going to keep evolving and changing now that I have a family. But yeah, I'd love to travel, love to go around, work on content abroad, and see how we go.
Well, just putting it out there, like if you ever think we can do something together, just shout me out. Now you know my DMs, so you can just
now I can't
chill
ignore
into
you.
it.
Now I'm manipulating. I never did. I genuinely, hand on heart, never purposely ignored you. It was just, it's one of those things where like I might open a DM and then go, I'll reply to that later at some point,
I
and
know,
then
I know.
never do.
I'm
But
not like just to say that I'm just picking on you because I can do that because you're right in front of me now, so I can do that. But Nubaid, this was a pleasure. Treasure this and cherish this always. I think I've always said like 2023 has been a really good year for us in terms of podcasts for sure, because we've put out episodes back to back and we've had some international guests as well. And if I don't miss out any more releases in the week, we will hit 100 by end of the year.
Oh, amazing.
So thank you so much for being part of that amazing year and just adding a bit more of your touch to it. I think I'll always say that, I had Nubaid on the show, and if you didn't know him, then that's too bad for you. So, but yeah, Nubaid, thank you so much. Please take all our love back home when you go. Whenever that happens, would love to meet the little one who would probably grow up one day. But also to your lovely wife as well, and some journalism connect there as well. I've been one of the journalists as well. But thank you again. I'm rambling, so I'll stop. Thank you so much.
I have a very quick question before we go. I don't know if you have a time limit on how long you'd like the episodes to be. What do you want long term from the podcast? So I was listening to the previous episode you did. I've obviously now met you in person. By the way, I'm not saying it because you're sat in front of me, but I've done a lot of podcasts where I've come in and I've gone, I feel quite uncomfortable, but you're very good at making people feel comfortable. So I hope the podcast flies. And globally, I've seen it's doing very well in India, but if you're listening from the UK or anywhere else, I said it at the start, I'll say it again now, do follow. But what do you want to do long term?
Well, okay, this is like putting me in the spot now. We on the show, definitely want the show to be one of the best when you think of sports, not just in football. Okay, in my title it says a totally Indian football show. The reason why this year we kind of increased the horizon and the boundaries is that, we also have people from across. It's a storytelling platform at the end of the day. And then, even then, though I have somebody from FIFA who's from UK, somebody from Japan, and you like yourself, it's still a takeaway for the Indian football audience, how to kind of make it there, or if it's content. Our USP is that it's not limiting me to be just to speaking to players and coaches. I can get literally everyone. So we've had co-founder of FanCode, who's the app now doing really well. We were entrepreneurs, we've had sports agents and stuff like that. So I would like to continue that and really increase the horizon and continue to have different vastness of people coming onto the show, and people still coming onto the show saying, I learned something and I got to know about this person. And the most, I think, rewarding for me at this point has been how people have connected. Like some guests have randomly connected with the other guests. They're like, oh, because I know I connected with them because I saw them on your show. And I'm like, okay, I think that's rewarding for me. You get to know people because that's what I did. How do I see this grow? I would love to experiment a bit more with series-wise if it works, or because we have many audio shows, right? So we are working on what can I do next? Like, okay, your big 100 is done. What can I present something? Now that I have the eyeballs and attention, can I present something absolutely different? It's a challenge there because I'm so comfortable talking to a person, but that would be proper scripted and all of those things. You're just narrating stories. I'm not too sure if I'm good at that.
Yeah, but I'm sorry to interrupt you. If you can sit and talk to a person for like 2 hours who you've met for the first time, I'm pretty sure you can read a script. Promise you can. Okay,
great. That's a good motivation. So I'll definitely try. So yeah, there are some ideas in the head. I'm really blessed to have people like within the team in Idea Brews. Also, and a special shout out to my producer and engineer because they really, really put that time and make you feel comfortable and give you the feedbacks and stuff. And I also have a mentor who's in the podcasting field. Like, I remember meeting her. Shout out to May as well. So there are these people who are there, like how you say, you want to do something, you just pick up phone up and, kind of. So definitely try out series, and also take it to global, like not just limit the show to be one of the best in India. But as you said, people in UK, in US, everywhere else, like, the fact that I get people like you, the show travels organically. Yeah. So that's the aim of when you, personally for me, that's one thing for the show. Personally for me, you think of podcasts, I think Siju should be one of the names that you think of. That's where I want to kind of, put my mark on.
I feel like you can close the show, obviously, but I feel like that's a great way to close the show. You know what's coming, and it sounds exciting, and I'm excited for you as well. As I say, we've only sat and had a conversation for like an hour or so, but it's always a good feeling when I'm looking at the producers and the engineer and going, we could carry on for like another hour, you know? So
absolutely.
You probably need to tell us to be quiet. But no, genuinely, thank you so much for having me on. It's been good fun. Thank
you so much. Yeah, sorry for being rattling towards the end, but thank you. I mean, okay, guys, the episode is over. Now you can go. This is the Totally Indian Football Show. I had Nubaid with me all the way from UK. Do follow him if you don't. And if you're a UK football fan, of course, you should know him. Reach out to him, DM him, no problem. When the time is right, he will respond to you. I'm done pulling his leg. But thank you once again. And thanks to all our lovely listeners. We are available on all the leading audio platforms. Do listen in. This is me, Siju, signing off. Finally, go for it. Thank you, guys.